Okay, everyone, let's talk about the first chapter of this class, which is Introduction to Information Systems. Yeah, you may have heard about the characteristics of the information system, and it's not really difficult to observe that kind of system in your life because nowadays we are using smartphone, right? Hopefully, and then usually smartphone include multiple apps, and then which are connected to the web services, as you know. And so in this class, I'm going to really give you the basic idea, how, basic idea to develop the kind of system providing the multiple services to mobile phone or other client software, including computers and so on. Okay, let's talk about the characteristic of the information system. Yes. So information analysis and design. Yes, let's talk about this first. I'm sorry. Yeah. This is a method used by the companies to create the main systems and the perform system that perform basic business functions. So if you go to the industry, especially when you go to the company, and usually the company include multiple functions. They has the company has a marketing division, as you know. So and then also the finance division taking care of the tax and so on, right? Also the production division and also IT division. Okay, and then I will talk about these functions or the divisions and later. Okay, and usually those divisions are known as basic business functions. Mhm. And anyway, so we want to develop the system, IT or information system, right, to have the functions of the performance of these business functions. Got it? hmm So main goal of the information system or IS is to improve the employee efficiency by applying software solutions to key business tasks. Okay, and then definitely we are going to use the structures approach, okay, to develop the information system. And then we will learn about that over the semester. Got it? All right, so systems analysis perform of course analysis and design the base and design, right? And then they need to consider those two things. First of all, those analysis actually need to understand the organization's objectives, structure and processes, right? Not only their functions, also they have to know how other business function operate, right, over the year and so on, so that because there should be a lot of interactions between different departments. So that's why the analysis or designer have to good knowledge about the entire the business or the entire functions or interactions between different departments. Got it? And also the analysis need to have knowledge of how to exploit information technology for advantage. And that of course, right? Because system analysis or the designer supposed to design the very nice system, right? To enhance the performance of the company. So definitely it should have a good knowledge about the technology, right? And as the IE, industrial engineer and system engineer, you have to, okay, have a good knowledge about the cutting edge technologies. Like uh, nowadays, right? Nowadays, due to the fourth generation of the fourth generation revolution in industry, so that's why you need to have a knowledge about the artificial intelligence, of course, right? Also the each applications, for example, smart manufacturing or smart farming or the automatic financing or IoT and so on, right? You need to have a good knowledge about those technologies. That's why if you have any, like, if you have a chance, or if you have time, available time, and I recommend you to check read the latest magazines or the IT magazines, something like that, or the IISE magazine as well, so that you can catch up those trend, actually the trend in industry, technology trend in industry. Once again, major goal of the major goal of the systems analysis and design is to improve organizational systems, right? Function of the organizational system by developing or acquiring software and training employees in its use, right? So you need to really care about not only the development, you also need to care about the training the employees, so that all the client, internal client, can be familiar with the developed system, right? That's your role, actually. So that's why you need to consider the application software system supports organization functions or processes. Right, and let's talk about the system. And system usually turns the data into the information, right? And that include these 5 items. First, hardware and system software. Second, documentation and training materials. Third, job roles associated with the system, and then fourth, control to prevent their theft or fraud, right? And then last one is the people who use the software to perform their jobs. That's why you need to really care about the internal, like a customer, right? Because if you got a lot of complaints from the internal customer, and then definitely you will get fired. Yes, so you will lose the job. So that's why you need to really be careful about understanding the functions, okay, between the different departments. And don't worry too much about it, because when you become the system engineer or join the company as a system engineer, and definitely there will be a senior, okay, senior employee who will lead you, so who will give you the guideline for you, so you don't really need to worry about it. Okay, you can be a leader when you join the company, as you know, right? So as an assistant, actually you can actually help other leading engineer to develop the system. Got it? All right, and these are the components of the computer-based information system. Yeah, usually we use computer, right? So when I call the system, and definitely I'm just referring to this computer-based information system. And of course, in this system, we need to have a computer, right? In other words, hardware, right? So hardware, or so there should be a lot of jobs or a lot of tasks in the company, right? So specific job roles, we need to have this kind of business process. Also the controls and users of the system, other employees, definitely, right? And then documentation and training manuals. Once you develop the software, and definitely you need to provide documentation and then training manuals, right? And in this class, I will really be careful about the documentation part, because if you want to be a really good engineer or successful engineer in future, and then you need to know how to write a document, how to write a report, technical report. Okay, so that's why at the end of the semester, I will really ask you to complete the project and then submit the report, nice report, to me as a group, so that you can have a good knowledge about the documentation at the end. Okay, and last one is system software. Yes, once you have a hardware, definitely you need the software to run the hardware, right? So that's why. So that's why they call the computer-based information system application, right? So it includes multiple items, components. All right, so let's look at the software engineering process. So yeah, actually this is a good course to take. Yes, it's a good course before you take the other software engineering courses, right? So that's why I really recommend you to take this course at the beginning as a sophomore student, right? Okay, so usually, so software engineering. Also, when you develop the software, particularly, you need to have. It's better to follow a certain process. So because it will really prevent prevent to make other issues or errors in future. So that's why. So this is this process. Yeah, of course, it's a process used to create the information system, and then definitely it includes methodologies, techniques, and tools. So methodology is a sequence of the step-by-step approaches that help develop the information system, and techniques are processes that our analysts follow to ensure through complete and comprehensive analysis and design. Last is tools. So tools are what? Tools are computer programs that aid in applying techniques. Good? Yes. So we have three elements here. So methodologies, techniques, and tools. And once you have good knowledge of these three items, and you are ready to develop the software. Good? Yes. All right, let's look at the system again. Our system is on what? Interrelated set of business procedure. Now you understand, right? Because system include what? How multiple components, right? So, and then those are the tightly related each other, right? So that's why you can describe the system as an interrelated set of the business procedures, okay? Used within one business, right? Within one business unit working together for a purpose. What kind of purpose we have? Yeah, for business success, right? To make money, right? And system has 9 characteristics, and then I will discuss this later. And also the system exists within an environment. I already mentioned it, right? It should be installed in the company, right? Not the external system, right? So internally, you need to use this kind of system. And also boundary separate the system from each environment. Okay? Got it. So let's talk about the 9 characteristics of the system. So system include components, interrelated components, boundary, purpose, environment, interfaces, constraint, input, and output. So I already mentioned about the components, right? It has a hardware, software, and then the business process, and so on, right? And then interrelated component, and so the interaction between those components are considered as an interrelated component, or such as networking. Yes, and then also the business has a boundary, so the physically, yes, the building of the company, right? And then also you will have a goal, right, to achieve. So in the business, usually we want to make a business successful and or to make more money, right? So technically system has a certain goal, so you need to develop a system to achieve what, right? And then environment, yes, so when you implement a system, definitely it has an environment. So usually it's a business environment, right? It's referring to the business environment, and then also the specification required to implement users system. And interfaces, yes, once you have a user, and definitely you need to provide the interfaces, right, to the user, so the users can use your system, right? So you need to develop also design the interface. And don't worry too much about it. We will I will let you know how to design the interface. Okay, maybe in later, yes, later. So maybe in chapter 6 or 9, yeah, something like that. Okay, and then there are multiple constraints, because the most known is the most famous constraint is the budget, right? We cannot have unlimited budget, right, to develop the system. So usually budget or resource, such as a labor force, right, or time can be also another constraint, something like that. So you need to develop the system within a certain amount of time, right, with certain budget. So those can be the common constraint for the system development. Also, once you have a system, definitely there is an input data, and then so that system can provide the output, such as a certain information, right? So input output. All right, let's talk about the important system concept. Good? Are you with me? Good? Okay. So yeah, the composition. the process of the breaking down the system into smaller components. So if you have a really big component, and then you need to decompose it. In other words, break down a system into smaller components so that you so that it will eventually make you really easy to control. Okay, definitely it will if you decompose the large system into the smaller component, and then that will allow you to what break a system into small help you to manage the system well. So definitely, so let's look at these 4 items. Break a system into small manageable subsystems. So right, that's what I'm talking about. Because nowadays system itself is too big. If you think about the transportation system, right, including thousands of vehicles and also the thousands of traffic signals and so on, and it's really hard to manage everything right together. So that's why you need to separate the area, right, for your for the better management. Mm-hmm. So something like that. So if you have a big system, if you need to develop one big system for the company, and then maybe it may not be a bad idea to develop the subsystems, okay, subsystems, and then integrate those systems as a one big system. So you need to. That's why you need to decompose the big big system, actually bigger one, into the smaller one. Okay, got it. And then if you have a smaller component, and then you can focus on the one area at a time, right? Because actually people cannot focus on multiple things at a time, because our human nature, actually we have attention blink. So it's so even when you drive, you cannot watch the front windshield at the same as simultaneously watch the front windshield and side mirror at the same time. You cannot do that. So it's already known truth, okay? So known fact. So that's what you call the attention blink. So you need to make an environment actually, or to make a component can be manageable. All right, and then you can concentrate on components pertinent to one group of users and build a different component at independent times. Good, got it? So that's why I mean, please decompose the large system into the smaller one, which can be manageable. Yes, that's the concept of this slide. Okay, so let's look at the decomposition. So this is an example of the CD player. Okay, and then nowadays it's a kind of outdated. Yeah, this is old example. So because no one uses a CD player nowadays, but let's think about this. Have you? I'm not sure. I actually, when I was young, I used this kind of CD player system, but nowadays actually maybe you don't have any experience to use this kind of CD player, right? You just use a smartphone all the time. So anyway, let's look at the function. So it's a CD player. Actually, input of the CD player or resource for the CD player is what? Is a CD. Yeah, that's what we call the CD player, right? If you insert the CD here, and then definitely you can play the music. So output is music. So after the composition, you can see that, okay, CD go into the signal reading subsystem. So this is only focusing on the signal reading, and then signal amplifying the subsystem so that it can make actually help us to help the CD player making the sound, make the not noise and sound, right? So and then signal conversion system, so that the digital signal can be what? Can be converted to the music. So we can understand, right? This one. And signal, and this is actually this part is a control setting. So definitely you need to press the button, right? Play button or stop button, or you can even select a certain song here, right? So by using these control settings, so control setting, and you can actually control settings has a signal control subsystem as well as signal conversion subsystem. Okay, and as you know, as I mentioned before, this signal conversion subsystem is affected by what? This signal amplifying subsystem as well as signal control subsystem. Good? Yes. So that's how we listen the music. Listen to the music, right? Oh, it's really hard to explain it. So even yeah, yes, this is a very simple system, but yeah, it as you can see, we can even decompose this CD player into the 4 different subsystems. Mhm. So subsystems usually have one goal, one role. Okay, so when you decompose a large system into a subsystem, yes, please make sure that that subsystem has a one function or one goal. Okay. All right, and let's talk about the other concept as well. So modularity, coupling, cohesion. So modularity is a process of dividing the system into the modules. So it's quite similar to the, actually correlated to the concept of the decomposition. So when you have a module of a certain part or certain machine, and then it's really easy to manage. Okay, so that's what you call modularization. So anyway, so if you have, so the you need to divide the system into modules so that you can actually manage it. So technically decomposition is a concept, and then modularity is more like the way to implement the decomposition. And coupling is a subsystems. Actually coupling is a subsystem that are what, dependent on each other. Okay, so you already saw the example of the coupling like this signal converter subsystem, right? So which is affected by or influenced from what, signal amplifying subsystem as well as signal control subsystem, right? So this is coupling, right? So you need the information from the other components, right? And cohesion is the extent to which a subsystem performs signal function. Okay, yes. Yeah, okay. And what else? And the system integration. Yeah. So actually, these all of the hardware, not us. I'm sorry, and all of the system, technically involving hardware and software from the different vendors to work together. And also, it enables the procedural language systems to work with the visual programming systems. Plus, visual program environment use a client-server model. Okay. Do you know the concept of the client server model, right? So when you use the yeah, when you play the game, online game, usually there is a server, right? And then your game or your smartphone or the game player is can be what, like a can be considered as a client, right? That's what you call client server model, right? So yeah, something like that. Good. Yes. Yeah, all those things are very conceptual, so really I don't need to really spend time to explain everything for you. All right, so let's talk about data and processes, right? It's a kind of very fast, right, when I talk something. Sorry about that. Okay, let's talk about these 3 key components of the information system. So data flow, and processing logic. I will explain these 3 items in the next slide. And then let's look at the difference between the data and information. Data is what? Data is a 1, 0. Data can be the just raw fact, right? Just a raw material, right? Raw input. So it doesn't tell you anything. Actually, it tells you nothing, right? So when you look at Excel worksheet, and then definitely the usually you can see the all the numbers and the text and so on, right? It doesn't mean anything. But when you use Excel and then when you calculate the average of the certain values or the standard deviation of certain value, and then finally you can get the information, right? You can get some meaning, right? Good. So information is derived from data, right? You need to process the data to get the information. Yeah, I know that you already knew about this, right? Especially learn about this when you are elementary school student, something like that. Yes. Yeah. So there's a difference between the data and information. and also information can be organized, right, in a manner that the human can understand, right? Yes. So let's look at the data again. So data. Mhm. So definitely though, when you have a data, you need to think about how to store the data and then manage the data, right? So better to understand the source. Also you need to know, you need to think about how to use the data, right? So for the system design in future. And definitely there are so many techniques used to describe the data and the relationship amongst data. And then definitely I will let you know. So we will use a SQL later, and then I will let you know how to really develop the system using the certain data you use. So we will use a UML diagram in future. So don't worry too much about it, right now. Okay, and then data, definitely once you have data, sorry, and once you have data, definitely you have data flow. Okay, data flows are groups of data that move and flow through the system. So because you will have a bunch of data in the system, and then the the movement is what? Movement is using the electricity, right? So definitely you can consider that movement as a flow. Mhm. And these flows include description of the sources and destination for each data flow, right? You use a LAN cable, right? LAN cable to transfer the certain data to the another computer or using a network, right? Anyway, so processing logic. So once you have a data, and then in order to get the information, you need to have a what? You have to process it. So that implies that you need the processing logic. So processing logic describes steps that transform data and events that trigger the steps. Yes, got it. Yeah, this is a picture showing the differences among data flow, and process logic. Good, got it. So think about the Excel worksheet, and then here is the data, and then include the name, age, party. Okay, so party means right. There is a more like a party in the politics. So think about the politics in excuse me, politics in US. Yes. So always there is a two parties, right? Democrat and then Republican. Good. So and then these are the age, and then this is the independent. Yes. So independent. Okay. So candidate. We have a candidate and the ages and then parties. While the people, we have people having age and then parties as well. Their party. So these are the what? Just data. It means nothing, right? So it's just the data, original source, right? And then here you need to so this data can be actually can go through these processes. Processes, and then definitely and then in order to process all original data, actually you need to have a logic. In other words, it's a program code, right? That's why you need to learn about the software language, right? Program language. And nowadays, as I know, Python is one of the popular language for you, right? Um, but later, actually, you will have a chance to use the Java language, and then as well as the Visual.net in other class, so that you can have a good knowledge about the different program languages. Okay. Next item is about approaches to systems development. So process-oriented approach. Uh, in this approach, actually, we need to focus on the flow, data flow, and also the flow, use, and transformation of data in information system. And it involves creating graphical representations such as data flow diagrams and chart. Okay, and then also data in this system actually are tracked from sources through the intermediate steps and to final destinations. And definitely this actually in this approach we are really focusing on the entire the procedure, okay, from the entire procedure in the system particularly. And then so that's why what we call the process oriented approach, okay. And in this case actually in this situation and nature of the structure natural structure of the data is not specified, uh, so there is a disadvantage, okay. Data files are not tied, okay. The data files are tied to specific application. In other words, if you change the application, then definitely you need to change the format of the files, okay, data files. So that's only issue, actually major problem of this approach. Okay, and next one is a data-oriented approach. So unlike the process-oriented approach, this approach depicts the ideal organization of data independent of where and how data are used. Okay, so in this case, you can use a separate data management system. So anyway, so data model described kind of data and business relationship among data. And business rules depict how organization captures and process the data, okay? So this is more like a data management actually, unlike the previous process-based oriented approach. Key idea of this approach is the how to separate the data system from the processes, okay? Processes of the application, basically. So from that point of view, and then you can actually consider the database and then the application independence here. So database usually what? Shared, it is database is a shared collection of logically related data, right? So also known as DB, right? And when you use a database, a well-known database, even you can consider the Excel file as a kind of database, but not exactly. But in this case, in this class, we are actually going to develop the database, okay, using the system. So that's why we will use a SQL language later, so that to collect the data and then processing the data to get the certain information, okay. And then also we can even store the data into the database, right? So database also is organized to facilitate capture, storage, and retrieval by multiple users. And that's a good thing about the database, right? And then centrally manage it, as you know. So that's why we need the manager of the database, certain database system, and then it is designed around the subject. So customer, supplier, you need to consider the both aspect as well. And it's an application independence. Okay, it has an application independent. In other words, it is separated from the actually the other applications. So that's a really good thing for the developer or designer of the system, because if you want to enhance the when you develop the system, actually you don't really need to worry about the structure of the data, and you need to care about it, but you don't need to develop the database system, okay, by yourself, because you can just create the interface to get the data, and then to get the data or to store the data right into the database system. So once you have the interface of the application, and then for the data transaction, and then definitely your development work will be done easily. So that's why it's better to have a separate database system in addition to the application, okay. So particularly when you upgrade your application, and then definitely or develop a new application, and then you don't need to change the existing database system, okay. All right, so role of the system analysis. So definitely we need to study problems, right, or needs of the of an organization, and then determine the best approach to improving the organization organization through use of people, method, information technology, right? So that's why, as I mentioned earlier, you need to know about the latest or cutting edge technologies, right? So that's why please read the magazines or the uh, magazines to get the knowledge, okay? Or IISc kind of magazine, okay? All right, and then analysts help the system users, right, and managers define their requirement for new or enhanced system. So as the IE and the system engineers, and definitely the you know definitely you are the person, okay, to optimize the entire process of the organization, right? So you are definitely you need to be ready to find the problems and then find the solutions for your organization. That's why I mean so you're taking so many different classes, right? Such as operations research and so on, right? In addition to the information system management. So we want. I hope that personally, I hope that you can get that kind of skill, particularly skill to solve the problem and then identify the problem. Thank you. When you implement a system, you have four options. One is in-house development. Next one is outsourced development. Third one is outsourced development and operation. Last one is a commercial application. Got it? And then in-house development means that you or your team will develop the software or the system entirely. Okay, and outsource development, and definitely you need to hire someone or hire some company to develop the software for you or the system for you, right? Or for your company, right? And that's what you call outsources, right? And then even you can actually ask the other people or our company to operate the system. That's what you call outsourced development and operation. And last one, even you can just buy the commercial application, okay? And then the commercial application will take care of everything for you. Got it? So you have four options for the implementation of the system. All right, and let's talk about the skills of the successful system analysis, oh, and then analyst, and then one is analytical, and then another one is technical. So analytical is what? Analytical usually you can think about the mathematical equation, okay, because you can understand of the organization, and because if you use the mathematical model and then you can explain the detail, explain the logic, or explain the actually analyze a result, right, using in through the equation, right? So when you use an analytical skill or an analytical model, and then definitely it will help us to understand the organization and functions, also the problems. So definitely you can solve the problem nicely, and then also you can think systematically. Mhm. Okay. And problem is that although the model itself is explainable, but sometimes not sometimes, but sometimes you need the unrealistic the assumption actually to have analytical skill. But it's a really but uh, but still you need to have the analytical actually skill so that you can understand a certain problem, right? If there is something happen and then you are the person who can explain the why the kind of event it was happen, right? So that's why you need to have an analytical skill. And technical technical is in technical you need to understand you are the person who can understand the potential and limitation of technology. Yes, so it's a technology associated, okay, related. And managerial, definitely you need to know what's going on in your company, right? Especially the how much money you need to use for the project, or how many people how many people are available in your project, something like that, right? What kind of potential risk you have, or what kind of change will be what kind of change will be happened, right? So something like that. And then interpersonal skill also needed, because you need, when you develop if once you have a system, and definitely you need to you need to provide a tutorial session to the employees and then or users. Also, while you develop the system, you need to communicate with other people, right, at different departments, right? So you need to have a written and oral communication skills. So these four skills are necessary for the analyst, okay, system analyst. And as I mentioned earlier, and as an industrial engineer and system industrial engineering and system engineers, and you have chance, right, to learn about these four skills, right? That's why all professors ask you to present your project and then ask you to solve the problem using operations research kind of technique, right? Uh, so hopefully you have good skills in these four categories. Alrighty, so let's talk about the information systems. Yeah, although we already mentioned about the IS so far, but yeah, let's define the information systems. So it is a set of interrelated components working together to collect, retrieve, process, store, and distribute the information for the purpose of facilitating planning, control, coordination, analysis, and decision making in business organizations. Wow, lengthy definition. So anyway, information system is complex and complicated, right? That's what it's saying, right? So you need to really study hard and then try to develop a system which can be very helpful for the organization management and information system. So anyway, so if you look at this figure, and you can get good knowledge about the structure of the information system. So it has environment, and also there is organization, and in the organization we have three major components: input, processing, output, right? So, and then we have feedback loop here. So once you got the output, and then if output is not satisfactory, and then definitely you need to modify, or you need to update something, right? So you have another input, right? So there is a feedback loop, right, to enhance the system. Anyway, so there are two perspectives: input, process, output, and people, organization, technology. But all these things are saying the same thing. And let's look at the components of information systems and technology: people, organization. So technology, what? Which data is transformed and organized for the business use. So I already mentioned that there is a hardware, software, database, also plus telecommunication, because nowadays you need to use a network, right? Having multiple servers or clients and so on. So that's why. And we have people, right? Labor force or users, right? And then organization, because you are building a system for what? For your organization, or your client organization. So that's why. Now, organization is a collection of functional units working together to achieve a common goal. What kind of common goal we have? So make money, right? So it's something like that. Yes. Or business success, maybe. So to achieve for the successful business, and then organization has a lot of people, right? Think about the Samsung or LG, right? That kind of big organization have so many people, right? And then all people, actually all employees are working for what? Working for their business success, right? All right, and then here's a figure showing the components of the information system. So we have an external environment, and then organization, people, technology, and then yes, and by considering these things, and then you can have a right or correct information system. Good, yes. So, and then here are functional units of the business organization, because you need to understand business organization first, right? Before we're talking about the system or system development, and we need to understand what You need to understand the business organizations first, right? So business organization usually include what? Include production, sales, marketing, finance, accounting, and human resources, right? In the previous slide, I briefly mentioned about these things, but yes, we have 4 categories. And then in here, we want to, not we want to, actually the organization want to maximize profit by producing goods and then services. All right, and then functional area of business. Let's look at the functional areas of business: manufacturing and production function. That's it's quite familiar, right? I mean, for the senior junior student, actually, you have already taken operation research as well as production management, something like that. So you are already familiar with this concept, right? But anyway, for the other student, let me explain this. So manufacturing and production function, which is responsible for producing firm's goods and services. Okay, Apple make an iPhone, Samsung make Galaxy, and something like that, right? And there are 3 stages of manufacturing production process: inbound logistics, and then production, outbound logistics. Okay, so this is between company or between buildings, something like that. Inbound is internal logistics, okay, between the department, division at the same building or the same facility, something like that. And production, or the same company. And then also we have a production line, right? Right. In addition to production, and then usually the company has a sales and marketing function, and which is responsible for finding customers for the firm's product, and then actually firm's product sales or the services sales, right? Good. So because anyway, the company needs to sell their product or services to the customer for their revenue, right? For the higher revenue. So that's why. So all organizations have this function, okay, sales and marketing function. And sales and marketing process consists of what? Consists of identifying and creating market, and developing markets, and then maintaining markets. So if you have a chance to take marketing courses, and then yes, feel free to do so. I think that yeah, when I was an undergrad student, I also took the marketing courses. So what is it called? Engineer marketing for engineers, something like that. Yes. So actually, that's a good thing for you as well. As a system engineers, it's better to know the basic functions of the entire organization, and then it will really help you to see, to have a bigger view, actually, when you develop the system. Good. Yes. And finance and accounting function. So is also another necessary function, right? And which is this function is responsible for managing the firm's financial asset and maintaining the firm's financial record, right? And then the finance process involves what? Involves managing the firm's financial asset or taxation or something like that, because the company needs to also, like employee, I mean, company also has to pay tax, right? When they sell, when it sells product, right? So that's what you call the sales tax, right? So that's why, I mean, it must have finance and account function. And not only that, also big company needs to invest a certain money to another company or real estate or build or something like that. So that's why in the finance and account function. Right. Also, the organization needs to hire someone, right? And then manage the employees, right? That's why it needs a human resource function. Good? Yes. So it exists for what? Attracting and maintaining an appropriate workforce for the firm. So they has to hire you, right, for successful business. So that's why, I mean, right? So human HR also is known as a HR division, something like that. And the human resource process entails attracting the workforce, developing the firm's workforce to meet the firm's personnel need, and then maintaining the workforce. Oh, yes, and then recurrent skill set. We have so many. Actually, it's better to have multiple skills for you, but let's look at it. So career skill and analysis problem solving skill, and definitely analytic framework, functional requirement, and the physical design, implementation, systems development. And definitely there are several relevant courses here. And the behavior and communication skill for this, and then you need to have organizational strategy, understand strategy, structure, culture, making decisions. Yeah, usually you can actually get this kind of skill from the by taking the courses from the business school, right? And then technical skills, yes, and hardware understanding or development of the hardware, software, telecommunication database, and so on, right? So we actually in this class, or the industrial engineering and systems engineering, actually give you the opportunity, give you or will train you to know about, to get these skills, okay? All right, so information systems in business. Let's talk about this. And then business function, we mentioned about the business function, right? And then business processes a series of interrelated activities through which work is organized and focused to produce a product or service. And business levels usually have three different levels: strategic, tactical, operational. You know the differences, right? Strategy is more like a long-range planning, and the tactical is more like a short-range planning, okay? More like a coordination or supervise something. And the operational, yes. So the operational is for what? So in order to produce product, service, you need to have a specific plan, right? That's what we call the operational. So this is actually, this is a thing that we need to really worry about. This is more like a broad and long-term and then conceptual.